Mr. Jeff Browning, welcome back to Western States.
Thanks.
This is your third year in a row.
Yes.
After a third and fourth place finish in 2016 and 2017.
Yeah.
But you are in a unique position in that you actually ran the race way back in the day in 2002.
2002.
It was your first 100.
First 100.
Tell us about that experience. What's the same? What's different?
Well, there weren't smartphones.
Yeah.
We didn't stream things on the internet live.
Yeah, we didn't. There weren't pre-race interviews or anything like that. Not a lot has changed with the course that much. A few little sections, but it's still hot. Mm-hmm. It always seems to turn hot right for this weekend. I think Mother Nature is an ultra fan.
Just in the nick of time. But how have things changed, like with your career? Like that was your first 100.
Yeah.
How'd you end up there, and how have things gone in the 15 years since then?
When I first got into ultras, I came from a cycling, mountain biking background, and I was totally into climbing and mountain biking, and kind of was just like hobby sports. I was like a weekend warrior, but I trained a lot, like 4 or 5 days a week on the bike, and did some running with my dog and that kind of stuff. But I got into ultra running in 2001, and the reason I got into ultra running because I heard about Western States 100. I wanted to run Western States as kind of like that life bucket list. And at the time, I'd seen a North Face, I think, documentary on Western States, and I was like, wow, I kind of want to do that. And I realized you can't just get in the race. You have to qualify. Back then it was a 50-mile qualifier, and so I spent 01 and this was 2000 when I first learned about it, and I just basically was like, oh man, well, I can't get in, well, I've got to get a qualifier. Well, I haven't even run a half marathon, so I better run a half marathon. So I ran a half marathon, a marathon in 2000. 2001 I ran a 50K, two 50Ks and a 50-miler, qualified, got in on the lottery, and it was only 50% chance to get in back then. Flip of a coin.
Back in the day.
And yeah, way back. It wasn't like, 8% chance now.
So that was your first 100, and how many have you done now to date?
30. This will be my 31st 100. Well, actually 32nd. I've had one DNF in 18 years. With a rolled ankle at UTMB in 2015. So I was on a roll, 15 years with no DNFs. That was hard. It took a long time to drop out of that race, but my rule is always life-threatening or injury was the only way you drop it from 100.
Good.
So you've been at trail and ultra running for 17 years?
This is my 18th season.
And so ultra sign up betrays the fact that your first ultra was at age 29. What? And when you started ultra running, sort of like you said, you had strong performances, but they weren't at the front of the race as you are now. You're having your most competitive days right now.
Yeah, I came to it more from like I just want to finish these things, and so the first couple of seasons I was just learning and enjoying running in the mountains, and back then it was such a cult small sport that there weren't eyes on the sport, and there was hardly sponsorship in the sport. So it was one of those things where you just kind of it was like going to meet the tribe at some cool mountain town and run a supported adventure run. And so that's kind of how I approached it at first. And then I ran 23:38 at Western States in 02. And so once I went to sub 24, I was like, I might be okay at these longer distances. I need to try and I didn't even train hard. I didn't do any speed work. I didn't do any kind of quality. And I was like, well, maybe I can do more, because I came from a high school track background and a lot of other sports, football and that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, maybe if I train. So I started reading on training and endurance training and Arthur Lydiard stuff. And
I was going to say, was it Lydiard?
And notes and stuff like that. And I really started kind of systematically training, and that's when. And I went back to strength training too. I'd come from a strength training background, and I went back to working out in a gym with a strength trainer in 04, because I'd had some knee tracking issues and that kind of stuff in 04, and I got 5th at Wasatch that year in 04, my second 100, and so and ran sub 24, and so then I really buckled down and came back and won Bighorn in 05, and that was kind of like when I kind of launched. Like that's when I was like, okay, I'm focused on this, and I'm was on the old Montreal Patagonia team, and
cool,
back in the day.
Well, so speaking of training, obviously everybody's on Strava now, and so we can see what you do. And I noticed that you've been doing a lot of biking to a trailhead and then doing some runs and biking home. I know you're a coach as well. You've got a lot of people who you help out with their own training. How is that? What's the strategy behind that, and how do you think it helps you at this point in your career?
Well, I have a garage full of bikes, so my wife doesn't like them to gather dust, or else I have to she starts pressuring me to sell them. So I have a motivator there, but I do. I love cycling, and I'm quick to go to that if I have a little niggle. One of my rules with coaching is 2-day rule. If you have a little niggle, do something that doesn't aggravate it, and usually I find the bike works for that. So if you got a sore knee or something, or extra sore quads, get on the bike for a day or two, and then go do a tester and see if it's feeling better.
Cool.
So nip it in the bud before it becomes an issue.
So, but were you dealing with some injuries, or is that like a strategy?
I was post UTMB bare double last season.
Yeah.
I didn't take care of some quad stuff. We moved to Utah, and I just didn't get body work like I normally would, and take care of some of the quad issues I was having. And then when I came back to training, I was having some knee tracking issues, like some patella tendonitis. And so I was on the bike several times. I took a trip to Moab and did just biking in Moab, and I kind of fell in love with the bike again. And I hadn't been using it very much the last 2 seasons, just a little. And so this year I was like, I'm going to do it. And I'm also coaching an athlete who was supposed to do Leadman. I've been doing bike workouts, like riding bike workouts, which has been really fun for me, coming from a cycling background. And so I just started using it. And I've used that bike thing for a long time, just bike packing. I've done some bike pack trips. So now I have a bike pack set up on a 29er, and I just go ride up in the National Forest to wilderness area where you can't take a bike, stash the bike, lock it to a tree in the brush.
Go for your run.
Yep.
Cool.
Go for a long run and then bike home. Yeah. Human powered.
Yeah.
Western States present day, your last couple appearances here have been a podium finish and a 4th place finish. 16 and a half hours, 17 and a half hours approximately. Totally different weather conditions.
Absolutely.
Those are pretty good performances, but you must be hungry for something else here.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, what is that? I mean, is it to run your own race better? Is it to achieve a faster time? Is it to
obviously it would be to go sub 16 on this course. I mean,
that seems to be something a lot of men want.
Yeah, I would love to go sub 16. I mean, pie in the sky. I'd love to get Mike Morton's Masters record.
Okay.
What's that?
15:45, 25.
He's coming for you, Mike.
But Mike nailed it in 2013.
Yeah.
I have his splits. I've poured over his splits. He ran really well from Michigan Bluff in. He was flying. And he's a different kind of runner. I'm a mountain runner, and he has that good leg speed.
Yeah.
So when it got runnable, he really excelled.
Yeah, he came past me on Cal Street pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure, dude. He was flying. Some of his splits are pretty impressive.
It was actually a very hot year that year too.
But he's also from Florida, right? So the humidity.
Yeah.
It's nothing to him.
So in thinking about this year's race, I mean, you seem to approach the race, all your 100-milers in the same way, and that you're well back early and then slowly move through the field late in the race. Do you sort of envision yourself doing that, or will you be kind of looking at splits?
I'm always looking at splits.
Yeah.
If anybody's noticed, I always have a little cheat sheet.
Yeah.
I have the Hard Rock John DeWalt Tough wristband with splits taped to it.
It's like Tony Romo with his.
I do. I have my cheat sheet. I always have splits on me, so I'm looking at splits the whole time. But I'm running it. I always run this race against the course. I'm not running against the field. It's not. You can't. You got to run your own race in 100, and you got to run to your strengths. And if you get caught up in someone else's race, then you're going to end up running probably to your weaknesses.
Yeah. But so can I ask you about that? Because there seems to be some people who perform better when they wait to kind of put the pressure on later in the race. There's people who can just hold slightly faster paces at 80 miles, 90 miles in. And there's some guys and women who can't. Do you have any sort of feeling on why you can?
Is it a mental thing? Do you gain momentum by passing people? And
that helps. That helps. That doesn't hurt.
Do you not feel pain?
I feel pain. But I'm reading the book Endure right now.
Okay.
And about the mind-body link to and the psychology of positive speak and all those kind of things. And I think it's funny, it resonates with me after 18 years of ultra running. Like, I use a lot of the stuff that they talk about in that book. And I think that's important. You have to visualize, you have to positive speak, you have to slay mental dragons. You know, those negative thoughts are always going to come up, especially in the second half of the race. It's like, you can hike this, you can take a walk break, you know, and you have to be able to like recognize it and shove it down. And I think I've had a lot of practice. I mean, 30-hundreds to practice mental game. And for me, like at some point you can only train so much, and you know, the rest is mental. So you have to bring the mental game. It's huge in this race.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jeff. As the king of 100 milers, it's only right that you kick off the coverage. So good luck this weekend, and maybe a round of applause for
Thanks, Steve.